Hey guys, Tomboy61, and today we're taking a look at the best and worst Tier 3 destroyers because, well, I don't know about you, but I certainly have forgotten all about these ships, but we are going to have to become acquainted with them once again because for the second and third season of Arena Mode, they're what we will have to use in order to play that mode. I don't know if you guys saw, but interestingly, we did have a little bit of an arena mode update for the first round. It's going to be destroyers and cruisers only, and then the second round of arena will be all tier 3 ships. I don't know, it's going to be interesting. But before we dive into that, let's go ahead and talk about comment of the day. Comment of the day goes out to someone who leaves a comment on one of our previous videos. Today's comment of the day goes out to Jared Costello. He says, I hope they don't make the USS Enterprise a steel ship. And Jared, I don't think they will. And my main reason for that is the premium a lot of people want. And they said in a other blog post today that yes, aircraft carrier premiums are coming, and the first one will be available for doubloons. And I have a feeling the one that everyone wants will be the one that they deliver, which of course is going to be the Enterprise. But, you know, time will tell on that one. So let's get back to these tier 3 destroyers. Now, for what is probably the first time we are actually going to put all ships into this comparison, including the singular premium destroyer for tier 3, and that's because, well, I have it, and therefore I feel confident with being able to give my opinion on it. I tend to not want to put all of the premiums in just because I don't own them, and I don't want to pass judgment on ships I don't own. If you haven't been with a best and worst for us, how we do it is we have two sections. One, what is the best and worst ship by the numbers, and then what I believe to be the best and worst ship. The numbers are done by this. Basically, we put all of the stats of the ships into a large spreadsheet. Ships get +2 points if they are the best at tier, or +1 point if they're the second best at tier at a given stat. And conversely, if they are the worst at tier, they get -2 points, and second worst, -1. We tally all those points together, and it somehow gives us a result of what the best and the worst ships are. And the worst ship, according to the numbers, is the V170. Yeah, I know. It's kind of surprising to me. Fairly moderate survivability, 10,300 base hit points with an armor thickness of a minimum 6 millimeters to a maximum of 13. None of these ships are going to have torpedo reduction. She has 4 guns with a caliber of 105 millimeters. She has one of the second worst firing range, but is one that is fairly common at 9.1 kilometers, with the fastest reload at the tier at 4 seconds, giving her a shells per minute of 60. The 180 time is the almost standard across the tier, 18 seconds. Lowest HE damage of any ship at 1200, giving you a 72,000 damage per minute when firing HE. Those HE shells are going to have a 5% fire chance, giving you the second lowest fire chance of the tier per salvo at 33%. AP damage is a lot better. Germans are known for their AP damage, and in this case, we're looking at 2,300, which is the best at the tier, and giving her at the best tier, 138,000 damage per minute while firing AP. On the torpedo front, you're looking at a very unique loadout. 2 one-barreled launchers off the front, and then 2 two-barreled launchers that go off at normal torpedo angles. Reload time on them, 42 seconds, which is around the midpoint for reload time. Second lowest damage of any of the torpedoes at 10,600, with a detectability range of 1 kilometer. Speed, second slowest for any of them, 54 knots, with a range of 7 kilometers. And here's why this ship ended up really getting screwed over with our ranking, and that's because the V107, no anti-air. Yeah, we just added the anti-air category into these rankings because guess what? Anti-air now matters, and it has no anti-air ability, giving it straight negative points for all 3 categories we rank there. Max speed of the ship, 35 knots, with a turning radius of 500, the tightest at the tier. Turning rudder shift, 2.7 seconds, and detectability by sea, 5.6, detectability by air, 2.8, with the usual 2 kilometer smoke fire concealment. And that is the V170. Overall, I will say I'm not too big of a fan of this rating according to our little spreadsheet. You'll see what my pick for the favorite is coming up, but I will say I definitely think this got it wrong until I played the leader. This was going to be my pick for one of the bests, and it comes down to the profile of the ship, just because it is so dang hard to hit when you're up against it, and I do really think that counts for a lot. With that, let's go ahead and move on to what is considered to be the best ship according to the numbers, and that's the Clemson. So Clemson is USA's offering at the tier 10,900 hit points with a minimum armor thickness of 6 millimeters and the thickest maximum armor of 21 millimeters. Main battery, 4 two-barreled guns, which give it the ability to sling 69 rounds per minute down range. Mind you, very small caliber at 102 millimeters, the second lowest at the tier, and it does have one of the weaker firing ranges at only 9.1 kilometers and a somewhat long reload time at the tier at 7 seconds. 180 time on those guns, that tier standard of 18 seconds. HE damage 1500, which doing in damage per minute because of how many shells it fires is 103,500, the most of any ship per minute. Chance of fire 6% with a 43% chance per salvo. AP is where it sort of gets let down, 1700 AP damage per firing shell, and that's the lowest at the tier, which really means stick to HE on this one. DPM 117 300 as far as DPM when firing that AP. No secondaries to report on any of the ships at this tier. Torpedoes, it does have the most torpedo launchers as well. 4 three-barreled launchers with a reload time of 66 seconds. 11,733 damage per torpedo with a detectability range on them of 1 kilometer. The speed on them is 56 knots with a range of 5.5 kilometers, the second lowest range at the tier. AA range, well, it can start firing AA at 3 kilometers with a measly 1 damage per second at 3 kilometers, but it does come up. By the time you get right on top of the ship, it goes up to 9 damage per second. Max speed of the ship, 35 knots, with the second worst turning radius at 560 meters. Rudder shift time, 2.8 seconds. Detectability at sea, second worst at 6 kilometers. Detectability by air, second worst at the tier at 3 kilometers. And detectability in smoke is that usual 2 kilometer. Overall, I really like the Clemson. It comes down to, it is the first prototypical American gunboat, and it pumps out damage like the usual American gunboat. And that's going to serve you well at this tier where the other lines haven't really developed what makes them special. What makes the Americans special to begin with? Well, they have lots of guns, they fire relatively quickly, and they have long-lasting smoke screens. Well, the guns don't fire very quickly, but they're all two-barreled, so it kind of makes up for it with that ability. You're still slinging the most amount of lead downrange during any given minute, and that makes the Clemson a very competitive ship, especially when you're going up against other destroyers. From that, let's go ahead and talk about what I believe to be the best destroyer at the tier, and that's going to be the G101. Yeah, I know, it's a premium ship. This is one of the reasons why I didn't want to always include premium ships in these countdowns, because I like talking about the tech tree ships. But the G101 is amazing. If I didn't include it, the V170 would have been my pick for the best ship at the tier. And the G101 is essentially the same exact ship as the V170, except it has more hit points at 11,000. It has anti-air fire. Mind you, it is measly at only 3 damage per second with a range of only 1 kilometer. It's literally just some belt-fed machine guns off the back of the ship, or its anti-air capabilities. It is actually terrible. And the max speed is lower at 33.5 knots, which is the slowest at the tier, but it has the best detectability at only 5.3 kilometers of detectability. So basically you're giving up about 1.5 kilometers of speed, and you're getting 1,000 more hit points and 0.3 kilometers better concealment, which of course you can end up buffing in different directions, because if you have commanders, it's going to get a little bit further down, but both the V170 and the G101 are fantastic ships. And I think it just comes down to the speed, the decency of the guns. Like, the guns have a decent fire rate and can keep up, and the fantastic torpedoes and how quick they reload. And then it just comes down to the profile of the ship, because I know I hate fighting against the G101. It's one of those ships, because of just how small its profile is, it doesn't stick very much up out of the water, which makes it extremely hard to hit, especially when it's moving at speed. And you're going to be doing that because you're in a destroyer. Overall, I think the G101, fantastic. And if you don't have it, V170 is like the backup pick. They are essentially the same ship, and I love them both, and would both definitely recommend them both as my favorite destroyers at this tier. That does now bring us to what I think is the worst ship at the tier, and that's going to be the Wakeful, Great Britain's offering. It has 10,000 hit points, the lowest of any ship. Armor thickness, thinnest at the tier for both minimum and maximum thickness at 3 and 10 millimeters respectively. Of course, 0 torpedo reduction. 4 one-barreled guns, 120 millimeter, decent guns there. Longest firing range at 10.8 kilometers with a 5-second reload, giving it a shells per minute of 48 rounds per minute. 180 time, once again, 18 seconds. HE damage, second best at the tier, 1700 with a DPM of 81,600. Chance for fire, though, really good, 9% with the highest chance per salvo at 45% chance to set a fire. This is definitely where it makes up some of for its downfalls. AP 2200 damage with 105,600 for its damage per minute. Torpedoes, it has kind of the standard across the board, 2 3-barreled launchers with the second worst reload at 71 seconds, though it does have the highest damage, and you can single fire them at 11,967. Detectability range, 1.2 kilometers, 59 knots is the speed of the torpedoes with a range of 6 kilometers. AA, it does pretty decently here. 2.5 kilometer AA range with 11 damage per minute across the board, whether you are in the farthest circle or the closest circle of AA coverage. Max speed of the boat, 35 knots, which is right in the middle. 500 meter turning circle, the second best at the tier, with the fastest rudder shift time of 2.5 seconds. Detectability by sea, 5.7 kilometers, and detectability by air, 2.9, with the bog standard 2 kilometer detectability in smoke. And you're going to be doing that a lot, because that is the one thing that this ship does have, is that five smoke charges in the way I have it built out, which is a lot, but they are the British short-lasting smokes. Overall, I just think the Wakeful hasn't really evolved into the ship it's supposed to be. You know, the British destroyers are supposed to have radar or sonar, and we don't have that at this tier. So all of the usual things that uplift the British ships, the British destroyers, from mediocrity just haven't developed yet in the Wakeful, and I find it just lacking, where it can't really keep up with its contemporaries, and that's why the Wakeful is the worst ship, to me, at the tier for those tier 3 destroyers. So yeah, guys, that's the video for today. What do you think? What are your favorite destroyers at the tier? Let me know down in the comments below. Guys, I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you liked this video. If you did, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. See ya.